Hey guys, welcome to the second video in the Blender for Beginners series here on YouTube. In the first video, we looked at the basics of Blender and we worked on a simple project. So if you missed that video, the link will be in the description below. In this video, I'll be going over some important tips and tricks that I think you should be aware of, especially if you are a beginner. So just sit back and relax and let's get started. The first thing we're going to talk about the different versions of Blender. When I recorded the tutorial last time, we downloaded Blender 3.4. Since then, there's been 3.5, and now it's at 3.6. So as a beginner, you might be wondering, what's the best version? To be honest, it doesn't really matter, because every new version that comes out, they're adding new features which don't really apply to you. So unless you know or need that specific feature, kind of doesn't make any difference. Personally, I don't use the latest version. I use what is called the LTS version. Funny enough, you can see it says right here, Blender 3.6 LTS. So if you go to download, you can see up here, it says long-term support. LTS stands for long-term support. So what exactly does that mean? So let's go in here. You scroll down, it says, the Blender LTS program is aimed at ensuring that long-lasting projects can be executed using a stable Blender version, which will provide critical fixes throughout a 2-year time span. The LTS version will not have any new features, API changes, or improvements. Any critical fix that is applied to the latest stable version will be regularly ported over to active Blender LTS releases. Basically, what that means is, as a studio or as an individual, if you want the most stable version of Blender, you should be using an LTS version. As you can see, there are previous LTS versions are 2.83, 2.93, Blender 3.3, and 3.6. I've been using Blender 3.3, and in case you didn't know, you can actually have multiple versions installed. It's perfectly fine. So let's take a look at my version of Blender. So Blender. As you can see, I have 3.3 LTS, 3.0, 3.4, which we used for the tutorial. Let's fire this up. As you can see, this is Blender 3.3.1, and it looks nothing like a regular Blender. The theme is different, and if you look carefully, I actually have extra buttons up here, which I added through code. Also, I have special menus like this, or this, or this. All of these can be added to your version of Blender. So let's look at how to do that. I'm going to close this for now and go to 3.4. So let's start off by looking at preferences. One thing I didn't mention in the last video was you can actually change the scale of Blender's interface. So under interface, where it says resolution scale, you can change this number and you can see the interface is changing. I'm going to put it at 1.15. I think that's a good balance for the video. Now let's look at how to change the themes. There's a themes tab right here, and you can see there's presets. We have all these themes right here. By default, it's set to Blender Dark. Let's look at Blender Light. Oof. Let's look at Deep Gray. That's not bad. We got Maya. Sort of looks like Maya. Modo. Print Friendly. White. And XSI. Rest in peace. So where exactly is the blue theme that I showed you? Well, you could go online and just search for Blender themes. And the first thing that shows up, this has all these themes. So we have Piano White, Amethyst, Choco Mint, Emerald, Graphite. That's the one I had. And just download that zip. And then once you have downloaded it, click on this install button, Blender Themes, Graphite, install, boom. The next thing we're going to look at is how to make your own tab appear. See this plus button over here? It says add workspace. Click on that. It's showing us this menu, so you could use some of the ones that already exist and then modify it. Let's choose modeling. Okay, this looks like the modeling tab, which is the same one as we have here, modeling, as you can see. So I'm going to show you how you can customize this now. So for example, I don't like the outliner and the properties on the right side. I actually prefer it on the left side. So if you remember from the first video, wait till your cursor becomes like a crosshair and then click and drag. And here I'm going to choose outliner. So that's the outliner right here. And I can do the same thing again. And let's choose properties. So now we have the same on both sides. Obviously, there's no point in having the same on both sides. So I'm going to get rid of this. You click and drag down, see that arrow? So it will collapse it and remove it. So now everything is on the left side. If you want, you can go down here to where you see the crosshair and press Shift and click, and it'll pop out as a separate window. And this is how I like to do it. That way I have everything on the left side. I'm working on whatever, and as needed, I can move this window around. So right now it says modeling 001. Let's rename it by double clicking, and let's call it entry bevel. Make sure you go to File, Defaults, Save Startup File. That way this will be loaded next time. So let's try it out. Let's close and let's launch Blender again. And voila, it loaded with our default settings. Perfect. Okay, let's add a cube. Next thing I want to talk about matcaps. Matcaps refer to this shading material default look of objects in the scene. And click on this arrow, you see it says Studio Matcap and Flat. If you click on it, there's actually more options. Personally, I prefer using matcaps. So if you go to matcap, this sort of looks the same, but if you click on it, now we have a lot more options. Usually I'm either using this one or this one, which sort of looks like ZBrush. We can further enhance this by turning on cavity. If you go back to this menu, we'll see there's a cavity right here. Turn that on and it's set to screen. I usually set it to both. So now you can see the edges kind of have a glow. So it makes it easy to see. If you want, you can play with these ridge valley settings. I'm okay with the defaults. I'm going to move this over here. Okay, the next thing we're going to look at are some helpful information type things. So you go to Preferences and Viewport, the first one that says Text Info Overlay, Object Info. And you can see it now, it says Collection Cube, same as here. You can also turn on the view name, and that shows which view we're in, which is perspective. So if you go to right, it says right orthographic. Next, let's go to the interface, and where it says status bar. If you turn these on, these will show up at the bottom over here. So let's see these. Scene statistics. It shows the name, the vertices, faces, etc., etc. System memory. It shows 111 video memory, VRAM 3.5 out of 24, and Blender version. I usually keep the verts and face. It's useful when modeling. The rest are up to you. Okay, let's close preferences. The next thing we're going to look at shortcuts. If you press Q on the keyboard, you'll see it says quick favorites. So what exactly is this? This is a special menu where you can add things to. Let's go to Object, Duplicate, right click, and it says Add to Quick Favorites. Now if I press Q, you'll see it shows up over here. So if I click on the cube, press Q, duplicate, and then we have a copy. Let's try another one. Let's go to select all, right click, add to quick favorites. And now you can see they're both here. One thing to keep in mind is this menu is specific to whichever mode you're in. So if I switch to edit mode, for example, if you press Q, you'll see the things we added are not there anymore. What that means is for every mode, it has a different Q menu. So let's test that out. Let's add bevel, add to quick favorites, go to mesh, extrude, sure, add to quick favorites. Now if you press Q, you'll see bevel and extrude are here. If I go back to object mode, you see duplicate and all. Personally, I don't use this because, yeah, it's cool that you can add many things to this menu, but then you can't reorganize them. It's like a mess. At first, it might be cool to have 10 different things, but then eventually you run into the problem where you sort of want to organize it. I don't know if a way exists, so I don't really use it. Okay. Now we're going to look at pie menus, one of my favorite features of Blender. Actually, it's a feature from Maya, but Blender does it better. So to get pie menus, go back to our Edit, Preferences, Add-ons, and search for pie. You can see over here, 3D Viewport pie menus. Let's turn these on. By default, it will turn everything on. I suggest you turn everything off and try them one by one. I am going to show you the 3 we looked at in my version of Blender. So the first one is Manipulator Pie, Alt, Spacebar. Turn that on, close this. So if you press Alt, Spacebar, now we get Translate, Rotate, Scale, and Show Hide. So let's click on this cube, go to Translate, we get our gizmo. Go to Rotate, we get our gizmo. Let's go to Scale, we have our gizmo again. And if you want to hide it, just go to Show and Hide. This is same as these guys that we looked at before, but this is much faster because you could literally just do it on the fly. Rotate, Scale, and so on. So that's the Manipulator Pie. Let's look at some other ones. Let's turn on Shading Pie. So if you press Z, now we get wireframe, rendered, solid. The same ones we saw up here, and it's just faster while you're working because you just want to see a quick wireframe. Okay, we got a wireframe. Go back to solid. If you want to see a render, that's our render. Go back to solid. So that's shading pie. And finally, let's look at the view numpad pie hotkey. Alt Q. Let's turn that on. So if you press Alt Q, you can see that this sort of looks similar to the tilde one that we used in the first video, except this is on steroids. It has everything. All the views, you can frame select it. You can even go to like a 4 quad view. So you could have perspective here, top, side, bottom as needed. It's very helpful for modeling. You can even frame selected and so on. Now here's the pro tip. If you look at the shortcuts they're using, view numberpad pie is Alt Q. That's not really great. It's kind of hard to remember. So what's the point of having Alt Q and the tilde doing the same thing? So what I like to do is replace the tilde to do this. Once again, go to our key map and search for pie. And here you can see on the 3D view generic pie views menu, Alt Q. So click on it and let's put our tilde key. Now when you press our tilde key, we have that by default. The shading menu Z, I can live with that. I'll leave that alone. And pie manipulator is Alt spacebar. I'm going to change this to spacebar. It's close. So now, as per our new setup, if you press spacebar, you get our pie manipulators. So while working, you can just press spacebar and change between rotate, scale. Definitely better than pressing G or R or S. You just press spacebar, translate, spacebar, rotate, spacebar, scale, and hide. And of course tilde, which is same as before, just on steroids. Awesome. Okay, let's open our project files from the first video. Here's another pro tip. This is our camera view. If you press on the camera and you go to the data properties, scroll down to where it says viewport display, and here you'll find composition guides right here. These are really useful. So if you click on thirds, you could see we have a grid that shows up. You could choose center, you could use diagonal, golden ratio, and all of these are so you can frame the image properly. As you can see, we sort of did a good job already. The top stair or pyramid, whatever you want to call it, is literally perfect. The pen is perfectly inside this grid. There's a reason that image looked cool. I didn't tell you this before because it's extra information that you didn't need. However, I highly suggest you look up what these mean. Trust me, that is what will give you awesome renders and separate you from the next person trying to do Blender and trying to get a job. This is how you beat them. And finally, the last thing we're going to look at is rendering. Now remember, by default, we were rendering in Eevee. So if you press F12, here's our render. If you go to this tab, the last one that says rendered, if you click on it, this is actually rendered view. By that I mean the F12. You can see they're pretty similar. If I switch this to cycles, you can see it's actually rendering. So you don't need to press F12 every time. If you just want to quickly see if the lighting's okay, if the shadows are okay, you could just see it in the viewport over here. Which is why, if you look carefully, it says here sampling, viewport, and render. Remember we changed the samples for the final render? These values affect this render. If you see here, there's a new button that says pause preview. And the reason this button is here is because Blender is actually continuously rendering the scene. So we click on the camera and we move it, and let's use our new rotate. See, it's rendering. Go to translate, go close. It's continuously rendering, and you can see it starts to get clear slowly and slowly. So if you want to see if the lighting and shadows and materials look sort of okay without pressing F12 all the time, this is how you do it. You don't always need to do a full render. You could just use this for quick iterations. That brings us to the end of this video. I hope you found some of this useful. Definitely let me know in the comments which one was the best. And if you happen to know some other tips and tricks that I'm not aware of, hey, let me know. Alright guys, it's time for me to say goodbye. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.